All right, this is the MLO Network Survivor Series, the first one of 2023 with my good friend and veteran lending council partner, Jason Stier, out of Argyle, DFW, Fort Worth, Texas, down there doing lots of VA loans, doing all kinds of video marketing. Today's message of Jason's numbers were pretty similar in 2022 to 2021. One of the few people. Mostly purchases, mostly VA. And a lot of people are always hitting you up and asking you for help and asking you how to be you. So let's start with that, Jason. If somebody is newer to the business or still kind of hitting their stride and trying to survive, what advice would you give them from the seat that you have with all this experience and all this production? Like what would you tell the people that are trying to grow as hard as they can right now?
Yeah. So first of all, thank for doing these. I think they're great. I hope people get some value out of them. And I, when I was in Nashville speaking at Tim Davis's event, this is kind of what I talked about. And what's hard in this business is for people to figure out who you truly are, right? We have all these outside influences telling us who we should be, what we should do. But most of those people who are telling you those things don't even know you. They have no idea what your tendencies are. They have no idea what your personality type is. They have none of those things. And it's hard to tell somebody to be something when you don't know who they are, because it's not as easy as just snapping your fingers and that's what we want, right? We want instant gratification. I think everybody that will watch this will probably say that at some point in their careers they want right now. And I think that's the curse of it. But what it takes, and what the first place I would always encourage people to start, is to figure out who you are, right? Take a personality test, take a DISC test or something similar, because we're not all built the same. There are people out there who are high drive people that are willing to make 1,000 phone calls a day to people they don't even know. I will not do that. I figured out a long time ago that is not who I am, because I hated it. So what I had to do is figure out, okay, I know I don't like this, but how I'm going to create a pathway for things that I enjoy to build a business. And I think if I'm going to tell a brand new LO, that's exactly where I would tell them to start. Figure out who you are.
Pathway isn't wrong. Like the guy who wants to dial 1,000 people, or he wants to do realtors for coffee, every single Monday. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all.
No. And because if you told, looking at a DISC profile, if you told a high DI to sit behind a computer screen and record videos and do all this technical things, they would be miserable. So those work, but it depends on who you are. And there are so many different ways to build a business and build a profitable business and a business where you create influence. But I think what a lot of people experience in this business is they get in the business and they get told by a branch manager that you have to do this to be successful, and this is the only way. And I think that's very dangerous.
Well,
because you're not even taking the time to figure out who that person is. And that's the dangerous part.
A lot of times they line up with people that are somewhat successful, and that person, all they can teach them is what they know. And,
right.
It doesn't, like, somebody comes to work for me, I can teach them what I know. But if that person doesn't like working with local realtors, doesn't like working with VA loans, doesn't like networking on social media, they're not going to be successful with me as a mentor, because that's what I know. That's what I like.
And I think what separates the good from the great is just that statement right there. You have to figure out that I'm not the best person to serve you. You want to do all these things that I can't help add value to anything that you're doing. But be honest about that and talk about that and be upfront. And people will never accuse me of not being honest and blunt and probably a little bit vulgar every once in a while. But that's just who I am. And what I'm never going to do is put my own interests above someone else's. This is your life. This is your business. This is your family, the things that you need, the people that you need to serve. Who am I to tell you that I'm the only way that you can get it done?
So Jason, now I love that perspective, and I think that's 100% accurate. But let's flip that a little bit. Let's dive into what does Jason love? What does
Sure.
Jason do? And maybe some people say, hey, this is something I want to do more of. And I know Jason loves making videos. I know Jason loves VA purchases. I know Jason doesn't love cold calling real estate agents, but he loves interacting with real estate agents and teaching real estate agents. So, what kind of activities do you need to do? And like, what does your week look like?
So what I found out about me is that I'm an educator by nature. I love to educate people, whether it's talking about VA home loans or even when I'm playing golf with people or things like that. I'm trying to help because that's just who I am. So when I figured that out about me with the help of other people, I crafted a plan to execute on that. Okay, this is what you like. This is what you are good at. So let's figure out a plan in your own business to make that work. So for me, it was where I started was education through video and through teaching classes. And when I started down that journey 7 or 8 years ago, it was a challenge, right? And I think the one key thing about that is loan officers get too hung up on, I have to be perfect. I have to be Tony Robbins. I have to be all these things to stand in front of a group of people and educate them about the things you're passionate about. But you do not. Because the first classes I ever taught were in Oklahoma, which is where I'm from, were awful. They were terrible. If I look back on those now, they were terrible. People were asking me questions I had no answers to and all these different things. And I felt so uncomfortable. But I learned.
I wasn't there, but I saw your first videos. And if your first videos were anything like
it was terrible.
They had to be terrible. Yeah.
And I'm looking at, I'm like, I have my phone like right here and I'm whispering into the phone thinking somebody might actually hear me. But here's the key thing to all of that. You're going to suck the first time you do anything. Anybody who tells you they're perfect at it is full of shit. But what you cannot do is quit. What you cannot do is allow those, it's not failure. You're learning. And when you're learning in that environment and figuring out what the definition of you is, you're going to craft ways to execute on those things and be happy. Because when we're happy, we do more.
You also learn really quickly what you don't know about what you're teaching.
Absolutely. Somebody asked me about entitlement, literally about how the 36,000 was calculated. I'm like, I don't know. I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And I'd done tons of VA loans. I just didn't know because I didn't dive into being a subject matter expert. So what I took from that is I came home and I just started nerding out on all these things and learning. And then I thought, okay, how can I take this learning and turning into marketing? So we like to call it educational based marketing. We're educating people, but marketing at the same time. We're adding value with no expectation of anything in return. And I think that's the greatest gift we can give our communities is when they do that, when they see that selfless act, it's truly transformational.
Now, you got a bunch of people out there that seem to think they can crack the code. They can, figure out social media. And I know people see some of your videos and they always want, a couple of people have already asked questions in the chat here. We got about 60 people watching about like, oh my gosh, how do I create this YouTube channel? How do I do this TikTok? How do I do that? And I know for me, I don't want to take the words out of your mouth. I mean, I usually do that kind of stuff, but the social media channels and the algorithms and all those kind of things always change. So it's so hard for me and Jason to teach you on camera today and inspire you more than, beyond today, because all that could change tomorrow.
Yeah. I think having a digital presence is fantastic. And I think it's a necessary thing.
But what do you do to actually get these messages out in all these places when you do the video stuff?
So, for example, I've tried to build relationships, and I think that is our one job as loan officers. That to me is number one, because if I don't have anybody viewing my message, I can be the greatest marketer. I can be the greatest, at digital ads and all these different things. But if I don't know how to get in front of people and truly add value to their lives, you're going to struggle. So there's a happy merriment between digital presence and physical things that you can do in those communities. Now, what I've tried to do is not only in my own backyard here where I live, but places like El Paso, places like Panama City Beach, Virginia Beach, is that when they latch on to my message, I'm like, okay, they like it. Now let's dig in more. How do we do more where they live? So I will travel to Panama City Beach and partner with the boards there to help them with their VA educational platform.
And then you will buy a second home and Airbnb it so you have a place to stay.
And then you'll do that, right? So it creates this kind of downhill momentum. But what it does is you start to build that trust. You start to build a brand in these places that you don't even live. So, I've had people tell me that
So the videos and the marketing are strengthening relationships that you already started. They're not
number one. It's number two.
They're not necessarily bringing all because I think a lot of people think, and it can go this way. I mean, you can make videos and build new relationships, but if you take some of the existing relationships that you have and you're strengthening them so much so with video, this is what I talk about on a lot of these calls, like combining traditional relationships with social.
Yeah.
I didn't put you.
That's what I've tried to do, because the reality of it is that I do not want to spend the dollars that it would take to solely build a reputation digitally and drive leads digitally, not just because of the cost.
So you don't want to compete with all those giant VA companies. You don't want to build the perfect site.
This might be unpopular for people, but nor do any of you that are watching this have the pockets to compete with Veterans United, USAA, Navy Fed, or any of the rest of them. You don't have the dollars. They will bankrupt you. So knowing that, you have to beat them at their own game, which is education. Their loan officers typically suck. Not a personal indictment. It's just what it is. So I try to beat them at that game. What I try to do is provide educational value to the agents that I do business with to train them how to combat the USAAs, the Navy Feds, the Veterans United. So when they get that buyer, inevitably, that's already pre-approved through one of those behemoths, we've already got a script in place on how to combat them. That's where I win.
I love it.
So but you got to pair it with the digital. Somebody was asking about YouTube before we got live. I mean, I have a YouTube channel. What I use it for is in my welcome email to my veteran and military clients. There's a link to it. Go watch the videos until your eyes pop out of your head. And so that's what I use it for. But also, YouTube is a search engine. It's the second largest next to Google. So I try to be active on there a little bit with shorts and reels and things like that. And so I've gained followers, I've gotten phone calls, but I don't spend an inordinate amount of time or money on it. It's a bolt-on. It's an add-on to my business. My business is having conversations like we're having right now and truly transforming a real estate team's business model with what I know. That's my value add, not creating a digital experience for somebody.
I love it. That's so good. So this is, we promise not to sell or push hard to certain products and things like that, but people always ask us, how can I, be more like Jason, or how can I be more like things? And I know there's one little thing that I know, but is there a place people can go to learn more about how to find more buyers, VA purchases, how to convert their business and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, Veteran Mortgage Advisors is where people should go. And it's truly, and I'm not saying
full disclosure, Jason and I own this company. I mean,
yeah, but here's the thing, and this is what I look at. I look at, what we tried to build is something that's agnostic, right? We want to be agnostic. It's information, it's marketing, it's a community of people who are on all different walks of their life and career. coming together to add value. Because even if you've been in the business for a year, you're probably going to know things that I don't, truthfully, because I am set in my ways and I do what I do. But I might take a little piece of what you tell me, even as long as I've been doing this 20 years. So this is the power of that community, not only from an educational standpoint, but from the marketing and getting out there and teaching classes. Because I'm going to tell you right now, and the number one thing and piece of advice that I can give you is I don't give a damn if you don't like teaching classes, if you're scared shitless to stand in front of a group of people. Oh my God, I don't like what I don't care about any of that. Because the minute you stand in front of a group of people and you put yourself out there and you show the passion with helping veterans and you show the passion with this benefit and how you can truly, the best place for them to get what they need is standing right in front of them, your entire business model will change. And it comes from teaching a class. It literally costs you no dollars. It's the most effective marketing thing you can do. And you're building a community around yourself where you live. Now, I travel the country doing it, but I've also been doing it for 10 years. If you do it right where you live, I promise you that you will literally not only transform your business, but you will transform how you are perceived in your own marketplace, and it won't cost you a damn dime.
How many classes did you teach last year?
About 37. And that's down. The year before, I taught over 50. Even during COVID, when nobody was traveling, we adapted the business model to digital, right? I'm starting to teach, just to give you some ideas, I'm starting to teach little breakout classes about seller concessions and buy down strategies and all these different things that can
Mini
add
webinars,
value to
mini
agents.
classes, and mini
classes. It's 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Agents are squirrel to mentality, and most loan officers are too. But if you teach a class digitally and you personally invite agents who you know that you want to either have a relationship with, you already have it, and spend 30 minutes pouring into their business to say, hey, look, this is how you use seller concessions. This is a 1-0 or a 1-1 buy down strategy that's going to truly serve the veteran because we're looking at forecast of rate drops. They don't think like that. So your job is to build that trust, build that platform, and I promise you that people will start to gravitate towards you. And sadly, I mean, I get messages from people that I'm like, I don't even know who these people are. I don't know how they found me. And I do a shitty job of asking. Carl White would be very disappointed in me. But you can still build a community digitally and in person. And that's where you truly move the needle. I pay for nothing in marketing. Zero. I don't run ads. I don't do any of that.
Well, you do now pay for somebody else to edit your stuff real quick.
I do.
Started doing that.
But spending money to where things that I'm not good at, I think is a very valuable thing. And when you're editing videos and creating short form content and all those types of things, if you're not good at it and you're going to sit behind a computer screen and labor over something for 4 or 5 hours, you are not using your time wisely.
But you're also, like you said, you're not running a whole bunch of ads. You're not trying to create the perfect funnel. You're taking the relationships that you have, getting more out of them. And, you are asking these people to help you fill more classes. You may not be asking them enough, but you do it long enough. You find the right type of people, you gravitate towards them. You find some agent advocates that can get you in front of other people. And, you show up with so much strength and knowledge and willingness to help and teach and train the agents. And now you have a brand that's sustainable and can get you.
Yeah. And I think the one key thing that you said there is, creating referable experiences for the agents you do business with, not just to the consumer, but other agents that they know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I've gotten a lot of the business that I have is agents making those referrals. Hey, you need to talk to them about doing this, or setting these Zoom calls up and with teams that are in military communities. And here's what I want everybody to hear. And I hope you hear this, is that people make the mistake of thinking because an agent lives in a military community that they know what they're doing, right? Or that they have an LO that they work with that knows everything about BA. They have to. They serve all these military clients. But I'm going to tell you right now, that is not the case. And it's a limiting belief, you're putting up a roadblock for yourself. If you tell yourself that you're not going to go after an agent or a team in a military community because they look like they know what they're doing. I have conversations weekly with teams all around the country in military markets. And when I tell them about our process and how we've built this thing and how we serve and how we do all the things that we do, how we communicate, all this stuff, they're like, wow, we don't get that. You close 250 VA purchases a year as a real estate team, but you don't get that level of service. That's a mistake that LOs make.
100%.
Don't do that.
100%. I know I spent just a couple minutes in Dallas event talking about that kind of stuff is, get your team up to the point where they build a killer process and they know what they're doing and they don't make mistakes and stuff goes through quickly and the appraisals get ordered quickly and people don't miscalculate the incomes and all that kind of stuff. But it's tricky because if you want to get to that level, you got to be a team leader. Like you have to sit there and physically teach the people on your team because the resources aren't out there in the community to teach them this stuff. Your LOA can't just go, how am I going to be an LOA badass for one of the best VA loan originators in the country? Oh, I'll go take this one course. It doesn't exist. So
no, and I think one of the best things that you can do if you're, is be constantly, and I tell my own team this, you have to be so valuable. You have to make yourself so valuable in this transaction that they can't get rid of you. And that is that comes down to everything, right? And for us, we're unique because, like you said, when we first came on, is that I don't help many buyers that aren't veterans or active military. I think I did 4 conventional loans last year. The rest of it's VA purchase, not one single refi. And so what we have built is a process that's built for them, right? We ask the right questions. We take all of these and we pay attention to all of these tragedies that we hear. And we heard about how bad this was. What do we have in our process that will combat that? Mm-hmm. Right? If a trailing spouse of a veteran is not coming and they're staying somewhere else, did you ask the right questions? Are you going to be present for closing? But you can take that information and help a buyer's agent or a team and say, hey, look, these are some of the things that we talk about in our buyer consults. You might add them to yours.
All this stuff, all these little details. Like I remember you talked to me last year about uncovering that a lot of these military spouses just struggled with the basics in packing up their house and how now you have a kit that you send them that just helps them organize and label things in their house. And
I literally was just talking to a spouse in South Dakota before we got on this call. So I'm going to give you a real world example that happened less than an hour ago. She's active duty Air Force. She's divorced. She has 2 kids, PCS into Tyndall Air Force Base, 50-50 custody with her military husband. She's never PCS'd while she's been divorced through a single mom type process. She has custody issues to work out because he has 50, she has 50. Who are they going to? I mean, all these real world non-VA home loan benefit related things that she has to make decisions about. I can't really help her there except to be somebody who will listen. And that's what I tell them. We're here to listen. If you need to vent, talk, whatever that is, that's what I can control. But my job, our team's job, and this is something that I want everybody watching this to hear, your team's job is to take all the stress points out of that process that you can control. So someone like her who's going through what she's going through can focus on her family, her report date, and making sure her household goods show up at her duty station. That's it. Your job is to make her so comfortable that she doesn't want or can she make the decision to do business with anybody else. And by the time I got off that call with her, and it was about 15 to 20 minutes, I could tell just in her voice, I can hear the relief. I'm giving her resources. I'm giving her all the things that I can control to make this PCS move better for her. Because I've built a process that is built for her. And that's what I can control. That's what we can control. We can't control all the other crap that LOs like to throw in there and bitch about. That's what you can control. That's how you make a difference.
I love it. It's good stuff, man. Well, we try to keep these to 15, 20 minutes. They have the time stretched to 2025. We're getting to 2025. So last question. If I take Jason and I say, look, you can't do business in Texas anymore, probably not Oklahoma. I'm going to move you over to Connecticut or Maryland or whatever. And you got to start all over, and you got to meet some new people, and all these other people aren't going to work with you. What, because some LOs are literally in this position where they're moving across the country or their business is falling apart. They have no purchases. They're looking this year going, what do I do next? Like, what do you do if you're in that position?
If I'm moving to a place that I've never been, my first job is to reach out to people who can help me with my mission. If my mission is to serve veterans and military in that community, I'm reaching out to title companies. I'm reaching out to their business development. I'm reaching out to local charity partners, anybody who has influence in the veteran community. I'm telling them what I'm about, what I do, and I'm trying to instantly build that community. Then I'm going to set up classes with those title partners and start teaching classes in that community. Because think about it like this: if you have a class in Connecticut, a place that I've never been, and you've got 25 agents in that class that want to come hear you speak and teach them about how to serve veterans higher, you've just had 25 coffee meetings in an hour and a half. And maybe you do that once a week. So now you've seen 100+ agents in 30 days that you can start building relationships with.
And maybe 10 of them even like you, even if you're really bad, and only 10% of the people like you.
You may get 2 agents out of each class.
Right.
That's a terrible ratio, but think about that.
Yeah.
That's 8 agents who can refer you that you did not have, and it took you 30 days to build those relationships. But guess what those agents also have? They have broker owners who own their brokerages. So then you call them and say, hey, look, your agent attended my class. I would love to come in and teach a series of classes to your agents so you guys can be the #1 brokerage for veterans and VA loans in your community.
Love it. Good stuff. So if you want to catch Jason and I more, some of you who message and asks, we do these kind of things in the Veteran Mortgage Advisor program, the Veteran Mortgage Advisor Elite program. We have these calls every couple of weeks. We have all kinds of training on marketing and selling, and more importantly, learning how to be good at your craft, learning how to master the VA benefit. This isn't a call for that product, but if you want to hear about it, message me, message Jason. Jason's going to send you back to me. But either way, you'll see us out there. You'll see us doing more. You'll see us doing events. And all of this is just us trying to change the status quo in the industry, trying to ask LOs. Again, if you're watching, we're going to ask you at a personal level to commit to being good at your product for those who served us. Whether we see you beyond this one video or not, we just think it's important that the LOs commit to doing a better job. And we know that a lot of the people that need this message will never see this video because they may be at a lender that prohibits them from watching videos like this. But at the end of the day, the more we talk about it, the more change that we can influence. So, if you want to hear more about our mission to educate, we'd love to chat with you. I appreciate your time, buddy. I know we'll be talking more this week. I'm going to stop recording.